Hi developers, welcome back to another exciting tutorial. In this video, you would learn to build a login and sign up form with MERN stack. We're going to build with MongoDB, Node.js, Express, React, and also style this form with Tailwind CSS. So we're basically going to be building a login and sign up form. This is going to be a full stack website. So basically, you're going to build a login form which will have two inputs, email and password. The login form is for existing users, while the sign up form will be for users that do not have an account, and they're going to input their name, email, password, and once they click on sign up, it's going to lead them to the home page. So let's test this out. Let's say we want to register a user, Zuli1, and then create an account, use an email, zuli at gmail.com. Then we'll have a password right here. If I click on sign up, it's going to lead me to the home page, and then we're also going to get a notification here saying accounts created successfully. So you're going to go to the home page. Hey devs, welcome to my channel, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Okay, so once the user creates an account, it's going to lead them to the home page, and in the home page as well we have the logout button. If I click on this logout button now, it's going to lead me back to the login form. Okay, so we can still log in with the email and password that we've created earlier. So let's log in. Zuli at gmail.com, and then we'll enter the password. If I click on sign in now, it's going to lead to the home page. You can see login successful. When we registered an account, it showed the message displayed was accounts created successfully. Now that we log in, we're getting a different notification which is saying login successful, but we have the same home page. Hey devs, welcome to my channel, do not forget to subscribe to my channel, and we have the logout button right here. So this is basically what we're going to be building in this tutorial. So let's get started. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please do well to subscribe, like, share, drop a comment, and let's get started. Okay, first you need to open your code editor, and then you navigate to file, click on open folder. So we want to create our project folder in the desktop. So I have a folder where I create YouTube project. So I'm just going to open that folder, and then I'm going to create the folder for this project. So I'm going to click on new folder. Then I'm going to create this folder, MERN login form. Select the folder and open it in VS Code. So now that I've selected the folder right here, I'm going to create two folders in this folder. I'll create the front end. I'll create the front end folder, and I'm also going to create the backend folder. So we have two folders already. We'll start with the front end folder. On the front end folder, you're going to right click. You're going to select open an integrated terminal. I'm going to be using git bash for my terminal, so I'm just going to select git bash right here. So now we're going to change directory to front end. And on the front end folder, we're now going to type npm create vit at latest space full stop, then we'll press enter. Then you'll be prompted to select a framework. So select React, then you select a variant JavaScript, press enter, and then you're going to do the following. You're going to type in npm install. So install default React dependencies, press enter as well. So now that we've installed React, you can see that every other thing is here. Now we're going to run, the next thing is npm run dev to start our server. Okay, so npm run dev, press enter. This is going to generate the link. It's going to start the server and also give us the link to view our React app. So you're going to see the default React app, and this is it right here. Counter is working. Next thing is to do some cleanups. So I'm going to come right here in source folder. I'll delete app.css because I'm not going to use it in this project. App.jsx as well. I'll clear everything. Control A. Then I'll type in this keyword refce. This is to create the React snippets. So if you type in refce and then you press enter, it's going to create React snippet for you. Okay, if this does not work, that means you do not have this extension. You do not have this extension ES7 React Redux React Native extension snippets. Okay, so if you do not have this extension, just come right here on the search bar, type in ES7 plus React / Redux / React -native space snippets. Okay, type it and then install it and enable it as well. So once you have that, every other thing should be simple. Then Control A. I'm going to delete everything that we have in index.css. So for the entire document, okay, we'll come back to this later. So we have app.css. Okay, so this is everything that we have now. The only thing we should be seeing in our browser should be app, and that is what we're seeing right here. So I'm going to delete this. Let's use an H1 tag. I'm going to type in this word, subscribe to my channel. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please do well to subscribe to my channel. Okay, so we have this now. Next thing we need to do now is to install Tailwind CSS, because we're going to be styling with Tailwind CSS. So visit the official website, tailwindcss.com. Once you're on the official website, click on Docs, on the documentation. It's going to lead you to this page. And once you're on this page, we're going to install. So we're using Vite. So first step is to create your project. We have done that. Next step is to install Tailwind CSS, which is what we want to do. So we're going to copy what we have here, and then we're going to paste it on our terminal. So our server is currently working, so I'm just going to open a new terminal, a new Git bash terminal. So I'll change directory to Frontend, and I'm going to paste what I just copied here. So while this is installing, the next step is to configure the Vite plugin. So in vite.config.cs, in our own case, it is vite.config.js because we're using JavaScript, not TypeScript. So you're going to copy this line of code, and then you're going to paste it here. And also you're going to copy this. Where we have plugins, you're going to add a comma and then paste it here as well. Okay. So now that this is done, the next step is to import Tailwind CSS. So we're going to add import to CSS file so that you can import Tailwind CSS. I'll copy this, and then I'm going to paste this in index.css. Then the next step is to start our build process, which is to run npm run dev once more, and then we'll style. So let's do that now. So this is still installing. But we have app.jsx in our h1 tag. I'm going to type in class name. Let's style. Let's say the text color should be purple 600, and then fonts should be bold. You can see that we already have the CSS property, the Tailwind CSS property showing. And then we'll stop our server from working, Control C. And then we'll restart the server once more. npm run dev. Then you press enter. So now we're going to click on follow link once more. I'll close the previous server, and then we'll open this now. And you can see that the color has been updated, and the text is also, the font is bold as well. So the Tailwind CSS is working perfectly well. Now let us build this form right here, the login and sign up form. So now that this is working now, I'm going to close all of this, and in our source folder, I'll create a new folder for components. In the component folder, I'm going to create two files, the login form file, refc to create React snippets, and then I'm going to create the home.jsx refc as well to create React snippets. So in the login form, we're going to have the login and sign up, and in the home form, in the home page, we're going to have the welcome page. So first off, so now I'm going to mount the login right here, login. Then I'm going to close this, and the only thing we should see now is login. So now let's create our login form. So on the login page, because we're going to have the login and sign up in one container, we need to be able to track it. We need to know which page we're on and what we should display on each of the pages. What I mean is this: on the sign up page, we're displaying name, email, password. But on the login page, we are displaying just email and password. So we should be able to track what we're displaying on each of those pages, on each of those states. So in this case, we're going to call it a state. So we need to create a state to track whether the user is in login page or the user is in sign up mode, whichever one it is. So first off, we need to create a state variable that is going to undo that, and also a setter function that is going to update whichever state we are in, and then display certain fields based on the states that we're in. So I'm going to name the state's current state, the state variable, and then the setter function will be set current state. So let's create the state variable that's going to track which mode we're in, whether it's the login or sign up mode. So const current state. This is a state variable, and then the setter function that will update is set current state will be equals to, by default, we want the form mode to be in login. So by default, it's going to be in login mode. The form will be in login mode. So if I reload, you're going to see that the form is in login mode. Only when we toggle here, if we click on create an account, will it be in sign up mode. But if I reload now, you can see that it's in login mode. Okay. So that's the first thing that we need to do. We've created a state variable that is going to track which mode we are in, if it's sign up or login mode. Second thing that we need to do now is to create the actual form. So I'm going to delete this. Let us start working on the UI. Okay, so in this div tag, I'm going to create our form tag. I'm going to delete this action right here. Now, inside this form tag is where the entire thing is going to be. So we are going to have a header. So I'll create a div tag for the header. Inside the div tag, we'll have a p tag. And in this p tag, we want to display the state, current state, which is the mode we are in. By default, this current state is a state variable holding that is tracking the states that we are in, and by default is set to login. So right now this p tag is going to display login. If we check here now, you can see the only thing it is displaying here is login. Okay, if the state was, let's say, logout by default, you would see that the only thing that will be displayed will be logout. But because by default we set the state to be login, then it's going to display login. Okay, so we have, this is the header. After this header, we're now going to have our form. So now for the form, we want to display based on the state. When we are in the login state, we do not want to display name. In the login state, we want to display just email and password. But in the sign up state, we want to display name, email, password. So we're going to work on that now. So now we're going to check. The first thing is, the first input field is the name input field. So we're going to check if the current state, which is automatically login, by default login, if the current state is login, then we want to display null, which is nothing. But if it is not in login, which is going to be sign up, then we want to display this. Okay, so something will be inside this bracket, and that is going to be an input field. And in this case, the input field is going to be a text field where we're going to have the placeholder to be name, and also is going to be required. So now that we have this, the next thing is to create the input field that would be for both the login mode and the sign up mode. And also the input field is going to be for email. So we're going to have that input, and then I'm going to select email. We'll have our placeholder email, and it's also going to be required. So I'm going to type in required. So we have this field now. The next field is the password field. So I'm going to type input for password. So I'm going to select password. We'll have our placeholder as well for password, and it's also going to be required. Okay, so we have the three input fields that we need. The first one for name, we need it based on the mode we are in. If we're in login mode, it should display nothing, but if we're in sign up mode, it should display the input field. And then for the second and third input field, whichever mode we are in, whether we're in login or sign up, it should display both of these. So this is what we have now. So now that we have the two fields, next thing is the text that we're going to have right here, forget password and then login. So for the forget password, it's just the text. We're going to have forget password. Now for the login, we are going to have the text based on the mode that we are in. So if we're in the sign up mode, the text that should display is login here. And if we're on the login mode, the text that should display is create account. So let's do that now. So I'll have a div tag. Inside this div tag, the first text will be forgot password. And now to the second text, which is based on the mode that we are in. We open our curly braces, we check if current state is login, then we want to display this. If it's not in login mode, that means if it's on sign up mode, we want to display this. So if the current state is on login, we want to display this text. So I'll use a p tag right here. We want to display create accounts. And if it is not on login mode, we want to display login here. Okay, so these are the two texts that we want to display based on the state that we are in. So next thing now that we need to do is to ensure that when the user clicks on whichever text, create account or login, it should display the field, it should display the form based on the state. Okay, so right here in create account, which means that we are in login mode, we want to display the sign up page. If the user clicks on this p tag, when the user is on login mode, it's going to display create account. Now if they click on create account, it should display the login mode. So we'll use an onClick method, and then we'll call our setter function to update the state. Set current state to sign up. Okay, let me close this so that we can have a larger screen. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing for the second text. This is going to display login. Okay, so let me re-explain. We have a container here that is going to contain two texts. The first text is forget password, and the second text will be displayed based on the state that we are in, right? So if the current state, which by default is set to login, is truly on login mode, they want to display the text that we have here. We want to display this. If not, we're going to display this. Now, for this that we want to display, if it is on login state, we want to display this text, create account, right? I want to ensure that once the user clicks on this create account, it leads them to the sign up page. So that's why we're using onClick method to call the setter function and then update it to sign up state. Now, if the current state is not on login mode, we want to display this, right? And then what we're displaying is login here, which is the text, the p text. Now, if the user clicks on the login here, we have called this function set current state to update us to the login state. So that's basically what this code is about. Now, the next thing that we're going to do after this div tag, we're going to have our button, and the text on the button as well will be based on whatever state we're in. And the button type is going to be submit. Okay, so for the button, we're displaying text based on our state. So we'll do the same thing. If current state is login, then we want to display this text sign in. If it is not, they want to display sign up. Sign up. That's what we want to display for the form. So now let's check out what we've done so far. Now by default, I said the form will be on login mode. We have email and password, right? Forget password, create an account. If I click on create an account now, it's going to lead us to the sign up page, which has this field, name, email, password field, forget password, and the text here is login here. If I click on login here, it's just going to display two inputs, email and password. The header is going to change based on the state, and the text in the button is going to change as well based on its state. Now, the text on login here is signing. On login form is signing. The text in sign up page is sign up. Okay, so now let's style so that we can have this exact form as it is, so that it can look appealing to the eyes. So we're styling with Tailwind CSS. We've already installed Tailwind CSS. Let's start styling. So we'll start this div tag now. Display, we'll set this to flex, items at the center, and then I'm going to do justify center as well. Then minimum height will be screen size. I'm also going to set the background color to gray 100. Then we have the form tag. So for the form tag, I'm going to set the width to full, and then max width would be medium. Then I'm going to set margin top to 10. Then I want it at the center. I want the form at the center. So then I'll set the background color. It's going to be white. I'll set the padding of 8, and then the border radius of 2XL. So rounded 2XL on all sides. I'll set shadow large. Then we're going to space it. So space Y6. Then for the header that we have here, we'll have this div tag here. I'm going to style it. The text should be at the center. Then for the p tag, I'm going to style it as well. I'll set the size, text 2XL. and then the font will be bold, and also the text color is going to be gray 800. Okay, now for the login, the name field, we're going to style this as well. The width will be full. I'm going to set padding on both left and right. I'm going to set the border. We'll add border to it. Then the border color would be gray 300. Border radius on all sides will be medium. Now, when it's on focus, we want to set the outline to none. Then I'll set focus as well. When it's on focus, the ring size will be 2. And then when it's on focus again, I'm going to set the ring color would be purple 300. Okay, so we've done this now. Bear in mind that the styling for all the input field will be the same. So I'm just going to copy the styling for this field now. Oh, Control Z. I'll copy it, Control C, and then I'll paste it here. I'll do the same for the password field as well. I'll paste it right here so that we're going to have the same styling for all the fields. Now for this div tag, class name, we'll set the display to flex, justify content, space between, and then the text size will be small. The text color would be gray 500, and then I'm going to set the font to be bold. Okay, now for this now, the p tag that we have here, class name, we'll set cursor pointer, and also we're going to when the user hovers on it, it should be on the line. Okay, now for this as well, for the two other p tags, we're going to use the same styling. So I'm just going to copy this, and then I'm going to paste it right here. I'll paste this as well right here. Okay, so now that we have these two, the next thing left to style is the button. So for our button, we'll set the width to full. We'll set the background color to purple 600. And then when you hover on it, purple 700. And then the text color in the button is going to be white. The fonts will be semi-bold. We'll set padding as well. Then border radius will be medium. We'll add transition. Then we'll add the duration to be 300. Okay, so this is what our form looks like now. This is a sign up, name, email, password, and then if you click on login, you can see that we're on the login state, email, password. This is what our form looks like. By default, we're on the login form, email, password. Create an account, forget password, we have our button. If you click on create account, on the sign up, name, email, password, and then click on login, you can see that this is working perfectly well. Now the next thing we need to do now is to set up our database to ensure that once the user creates an account, they're able to log in and then they're able to visit the welcome page. Although we're here to create the welcome page, which is going to be the home page. So let's work on that now. So now for the home page, we're going to have, I'll delete this, then we'll have a div tag. Inside this div tag, we're going to have another div tag. Inside this other div tag, we'll have 3 p tags and then a button, which is going to be, to take this text, log out. Now for the first p tag, we're going to have this text, a devs. Then for the second p tag, we're going to have this text. And then for the last p tag, we're going to have this text. So these are the texts that we're going to have on the home page. And now let's style this page now. So display would be flex, items at the center. Then we're going to have justify center as well. Minimum height will be screen size. Then we'll have our background color to be gray as well. Now for this other div tag, we're going to have text center, and then we'll add a space. Then for the first p tag, the text size would be large, the font will be semi bold, text color would be gray 800. Now for the second p tag, the text size would be 5XL, text color would be gray 700. Then for the last p tag, text color will be 2XL, and the color would be this. Now for the button, we're going to have margin top to be 6. We'll set the width and height with padding, and then we'll set the background color to red 500. The text color would be white, border radius, and then we'll have the transition in the color, and then the duration of the transition will be 300. Okay, so now this is for the home page, which we're going to see once the user has created an account or login. So now that we're done with front end, we'll close this now. Then we're going to open our backend folder. So now that we're done with front end, we're going to open the backend terminal. So I'm just going to open my terminal and change directory to backend directly. So I'm going to do change directory to backend, and then I'm going to, in the backend folder, I'm going to create a file server.js. So now I'm going to type in npm in it in the terminal. Once you type this in, ensure you're connected to the internet when you type this. So package name backend, press enter, version 1.0, description, keep pressing enter. The entry point is server.js, press enter as well. Test, command, gauge repository, keywords, author, license, test. Is this okay? Press enter, yes. Okay, now you have package.json. Okay, so now that we have package.json, next thing we want to do is to install other packages that we're going to use for this project. So first, let me do npm install. We'll start by installing mongoose, that is for MongoDB. We'll install node-mon. I'm going to explain what each of this installation is for. We're going to install validator. We'll install bycrypt. We'll install JSON web token. JSON web token. We'll install .env. .env, and also we'll install course. We'll install express, and then we'll press enter for each of these to install. So first of all, while this is installing, I'm going to explain. So mongoose, I'll start with mongoose, is a library for working with MongoDB in Node.js. It helps us structure data, define schemas, and interact with database easily. Then we have node-mon here. Node-mon is a tool that automatically restarts the Node.js application when there is a file change. You're going to see that in action when there is a file change. Let's say we're typing, we're deleting in our Node.js, like in the backend file. Node-mon is going to restart the server once it detects a file change. It's going to restart the server after every change. Next thing here is validator, and validator is the package that is used to validate and sanitize user inputs, such as checking if an email is valid or if a password meets certain criteria. Then we have bycrypt as well. So bycrypt is a library for hashing passwords securely before storing them in database. So it's going to make it difficult for hackers to decode them. So instead of having to store your password as it is, bycrypt is going to hash that password and then securely store it in your database, so that it will be difficult for hackers to decode it. Then we have JSON web token, which is a package that is used for creating and verifying JSON web tokens, which is also going to help us for user authentication and authorization. Then we have .env, which is a package that loads environment variable from a .env file. And in the .env file, we're going to keep sensitive data to secure and separate it from the actual code that we'll have in our backend. Then we have CORS, which is a security features in web browsers that restrict how resources on the server can be accessed from different domains. And lastly, we have Express. Express is a Node.js web framework that provides several features for web and mobile applications. So we're installing all of this now. As you can see, it has installed. Now, if we check our package log.json in the new dependencies, we have Bycrypt version 6.0, CORS 2.8.5, .env version 17.2.2. We have Express as well, version 5.1. JSON Web Token version 9.0.2. We have Mongoose installed, version 8.18. We have NodeMon version 3.13.10. We have Validator as well, version 13.15.15. So we have installed all the dependencies that we need here now. So now the type here, we're going to change this to module. So I'm going to change this to module, and then our and then in the script here, I'm going to delete these tests. And then we're going to have server, I'll add a comma. We'll have server. Our server will be restarted with NodeMon. So I'm just going to have NodeMon server.js. Okay, so now we have this. I'll close this now. The next thing that we're going to do now is to create a basic server. So the first thing is to import Express from Express package. So we're going to have Express from Express package. Then we import CORS as well. Import CORS from CORS package. And then we're going to import .env as well. Import .env /config. Then now we're going to create our Express. So const app will be equals to Express. So now we have initialized our Express app. Next thing we need to do now is to set the server port from our environment variable, or we'll set the default to 4000, port 4000. I'm just going to set the default port to port 4000. So const port will be equals to process dot env dot, if we have a port set in our environment variable, or port 4000. Then the next step now is to define the route to check if our API is working. So we're going to do app.get. We'll use / and then response, requests and response. We'll set the response message. Response.send is going to take API working. Okay, then we're now going to start the server using app.listen ports, comma, open brackets, console. We'll log into console.log. In the console, it should say server started on ports. Then we'll concatenate it with the port number, which we've already defined here, and it is 4000. So if the server is working, it should show API. It should show API working. Server started on port 4000. Okay, so let us test this out now. On the back end, we're going to do npm run server. Press enter. So you can see that we have this message right here. NodeMon has restarted. It has started the server, and you can see that we're getting this message. Server started on port 4000. So our server is working perfectly well. Okay, and then if we come right here, and then we do localhost port 4000, we should get this API working. You can see that everything is working as we want it. API working, server started on port 4000 is what we should get in the console. API working is what we should get in the page. Okay, so now that this is working, we can now create our folders in the backend. So the first folder will be the controllers folder. Second folder will be the configuration folder. I'm going to explain what each of these folder is going to put. The third folder will be models. The fourth folder will be routes. Okay, so we're going to be using these four folders. The configuration folder, this config folder, is going to contain configuration files like the database connection. So here we're going to have our MongoDB setup, the environment setup. So this is where we're going to manage the core app settings. Then we have this controllers folder. So here we're going to have files that is going to hold the logic for handling incoming requests, processing data, and sending response. So in the controllers folder, we're going to have all our functions that is going to handle processing data and sending responses. Then in these models here, we're going to have files that is going to define the structure and the schema of the data that we're going to use in this application, and it's usually tied to the database. So here we're going to structure how we want our data to be saved in the database. Then we have the route as well, and for the routes, it's going to contain files where we're going to map HTTP request to specific controller function based on the URL and the method. So basically, we're going to have functions in these controllers, and then the route here is where we're going to map the request to a specific controller's function. So you're going to see all that in action now. So first, let's set up our database. So we're going to set up mongodb.js. Okay, before doing anything here, we need to first set up our database. So right here, just type in MongoDB Atlas. Press enter. So once you're on this, click on MongoDB Atlas. Then it will lead you to the page. And right here, click on sign in. Once you're on this page, click on sign in to create an account. If you have an existing account, just log in. If you do not have an existing account, just sign up right here. Right now, I'm going to log in because I have an account. But if you don't have an account, just click on sign up, and then you go through the process of creating the account. But if you have an account, you can log in with either your Google account or your GitHub account. So I'm going to log in. So once you log in, you're going to create a new project. And if you're just signing up, just click on new project and then give your project a name. This is going to be login MERN stock. And then I'm going to click on next. And then if you want to invite members, invite members. But I'm not inviting any members, so I'm just going to create a project. And now you're going to see create clusters. Just click on create clusters. So once you click on this, it's going to lead you to this page to deploy your clusters. We're using the free package, so just click on free. Since this is a tutorial and it has a storage of 512 MB, so cluster 0, you can choose whichever provider. I'll leave it as Amazon Web Service, and then you choose your region. So I'm in Africa, I'm going to choose Cape Town, and then once we have this, click on create deployment, and then you're going to see this prompt now. Okay, so I would advise that you change the password, and then you're not going to, once you've changed the password, click on choose a connection. Okay, choose create database user. Once you've created the user, this is the username and the password, and then you're going to click on choose a connection method. Now you're going to connect to your application. Click on drivers. We're using Node.js. If you're using other programming language, you just go for it. Since we're using Node.js, this is the latest version 6.7. Right, we've installed MongoDB already. Now you're going to copy this from MongoDB to .NET. You're going to copy the text that we have here from MongoDB to .NET. Once you have copied that, head over to your backend, create a new file, give it .env. Now here you're going to create MongoDB underscore URI. It's going to be equal to, open a quote and paste what you just copied. Okay, once you've pasted that, now click on done. Now we've created our cluster. Next thing we need to do is the network access. Click on network access. So once you've clicked on this, click on add IP address. Ensure that you allow access from anywhere. So I'm going to click on allow access from anywhere. Then I'm going to click on confirm. Okay, so now that I we have included our IP address and it's active, you can now head back here to clusters. And next thing is to continue with your actual code. So now we'll start with MongoDB.js. Let us create a database connection. Let's establish a connection with the MongoDB. So first off, we need to import Mongoose library to interact with MongoDB. Remember that we have installed Mongoose, so we're going to import, in lowercase, import Mongoose from Mongoose package. And then we'll create a function to establish a connection with the MongoDB. So we're going to name the function connectDB. So const connectDB is going to be an asynchronous function. So async, it will take no parameter. And then right here, first we use an event listener to log a message when the database connection is successfully established. So we're going to do mongoose dot connection dot on. Then we'll open our brackets. If it's connected, then we'll create a function outside of this. So in here, we're going to log a message in the console that is going to say connection successful. Okay. Then after this now, we're now going to connect to MongoDB database using the URI that we have stored in our environment variable. This URI that we have stored in our environment variable. So we're going to have await mongoose dot connect open brackets, use a backtick, we'll use a dollar sign, then we'll open a curly braces that is going to, and we're going to have process dot the environment variable env dot the mongoose URI, the MongoDB URI. So to avoid typo error, I'm just going to copy this and then I'll paste it here, MongoDB URL. After this curly braces, we'll now have slash. This is a form, so we'll have form. Okay. Now that this is working, next thing we need to do now is to export the connect database function so that we can use it in other parts of the application. So we're going to have export default connect db. We're exporting this function, which is this, so that we can use it in other parts of the application. Now we'll open our server.js. And now right here, after these ports, we are now going to connect the database. So connect database. We'll put the connect database function here. And one thing, you can see that we're having an error. The app has crashed. And this is because we did not add .js here. So ensure to add .js. Now NodeMod has restarted the server. You can see that once there's any change in our files, NodeMod is restarting the server. So our server has been restarted and now we're getting this message. Server started on port 4000 and you can also see connection successful, which is the message that we should get once we're able to connect our MongoDB. If we're able to connect our local server with our MongoDB. So we're getting the message, server started on port 4000, connection successful. Now that we have this working, let us continue with the project. Now we're going to create a file in the controllers function so that we can create the function for user to create an account and also a function for user to log in their account. So right here in our controllers function, we're going to have user controllers .js. But before this, we need to create a model. We need to structure the way we want the user data to be in our MongoDB, in our database. So we need to create a model, user models.js. Like I said earlier, in our models, the file that will be here will contain the structure of the way we want our data to be stored in our database. So we need to first create that. So first off, we need to import mongoose from mongoose package. Next is to define the schema for our user in MongoDB. So we're going to have const user schema be equals to new mongoose dot schema open brackets then open curly braces. So inside we're going to have name and the type is string. Type typ, okay, will be string. Required, we'll set that to true. Okay, so the name is required. Oh, come on, it should be inside this. Okay, so type will be string required true. Then for the user data, we need the email as well. The type is going to be string, the required true as well. So I'm just going to copy and paste this right here. Then we need password as well. For our user data, type is string, required true. And then for the email as well, we need to add one more property, unique. We'll set this to true. So that means that an email is unique to a particular user. Two users cannot use the same email to create an account. Okay, so unique true. Then that's what we have now. So after creating the user schema, next thing we need to do is to create a MongoDB model for the user data. So we're going to check if the model already exists, then we're going to use it. Otherwise, we'll create a new model. So we're going to have const user model will be equal to mongoose dot models dot user, or if it does not exist, we'll create a new one, mongoose dot model, open brackets, user, comma, would use our user schema. So after this now, we're now going to export our user model so that we can use it in other part of the application. So we're going to have export defaults user model. So now that we have user models, next thing now is to create our controllers function right here. So we're going to have our functions. So the first function will be the function that's going to undo user login. So I'm going to have const. Name the function login user. And it's going to be an asynchronous function. The parameters are going to be request and respond. Then the second function would be register user. So const register user. It's going to be an asynchronous function as well. Parameters request and respond. Okay, so now that we have this now, we need to export the functions. So we're going to export login user and also register user so that we can use it in other parts of our applications. Okay, so now that we have this now, we have our controllers function. The next thing, before writing the functions, for login now, let's say the user is logged in. We want to get the response. We generate a response.json message user logged in successfully. User logged in. Okay. Now that we have these functions, we're going to create the routes to match these functions, right? So we're going to create a file user routes.js. So in this file, we're going to match our functions with a specific URL. Okay. So first we need to import express from express package. Once we've done that, we're now going to import the functions that we want to map the URLs to. We'll import the functions from dot controllers slash user controllers.js. Okay. So once that is done, we're now going to create our router to map each of the functions with their route. So we're going to have const user router will be equals to express dot router. Then we'll create routes for each of the controller functions. So user router dot, to register user, we're going to use the post method. So we use post quote slash register. That is the API endpoints. Then we're going to map it with the register user controllers function. Next route will be for login. So dot post open brackets. This one will be slash. The API endpoint will be slash login, and then we're going to map it with login register. Okay. Now that we have these two to log in and to register, we have created the route for this. We're now going to export user router so that we can use it in other parts of our application. Okay. So now right here we've already set up our route. Now we'll now open server.js. And then after this connection, after this database connection, we're going to have app.use. We'll set this up express.json, then app.use cause. Now we're now going to set the API endpoint for the user route in our server.js. So here we're going to have app.use open brackets. Our API endpoint will be slash API slash user comma user router. So it has imported user router.js. Okay, so we have set up the route for this. We've created the function, although the functions are not complete, and then we've created the models for this. Now we're going to test these functions to see if they are working, and also to see if this route that we have set up is working, if this API endpoint is working as well. So we're going to be testing with this extension called Thunder Client. We're going to be testing with this extension. So I'll create a new request. Okay. Remember that when we're setting this up, we're using the post method for both of them. We have the post, we have the get method, we have the put method, delete method, patch, add, options, delete, prop, find, and custom. We're using the post method, right? And then we're going to set up our API endpoint. This is going to be HTTP localhost port 4000. So local, I think better still, we can just come right here and then copy it. Okay, I've already deleted. Okay, I searched for something else here. Let me go back. Okay, let's see. Localhost port 4000. Let's paste it right here. You can see port 4000. Now, we want to test this function, this login function first. The route here is this user router dot post method slash login. Now, for the entire user router, this is the API endpoint right here slash API slash user. So when we want to test, it's going to be slash API slash user slash login. Oh, slash, not dot login, slash login. If I click on send now, the message we should get should be user logged in. Let's test this. Let me click on send. Okay, we have a problem. Okay, so I paused the video to sort something. Now we're getting the right message, user logged in. So the server was previously open before on my laptop, which is also port 4000. That's why we're getting that error message that I displayed the other time. But now I have stopped the server and now we're using this now. So this is working perfectly well. Post method, localhost, this is the HTTP, localhost port 4000 slash API slash user slash login. We're getting this message, user logged in. Now we're going to test for register user now. Let me copy what we have here and paste it in the function. And then we want to display a message that's going to say user registered. Okay, so right here, this is going to be slash register because that's what we have in the route slash register. Okay, slash register. We're using post method as well. You're going to get this message, user registered. That means that this controller function is working, our route is working as well, our server is working as well. Okay, so now let's create the actual functions that we want exactly when the user wants to log in and when the user wants to register an account. So let me just expand this a little and then let's get back to work. So we'll start with the login user. Let me delete this first. Now let's start with the actual code. So now right here we use our try catch error. We'll use our try catch statement. That's what I mean. So in the try block, we are going to try to do some things. First is to extract the email and password from request body, we're going to have const email password will be equals to request dot body. Then the next thing is to find the user in the database by email. So we're going to have const user will be equal to await user model from this. Okay, user model. Let's import user model so that we would not forget that. Let's import user model from models dot forward slash. Okay, we have an error here. Okay, dot forward slash models slash user models dot js. So let us continue. I just wanted us to import this so that we would not forget. Okay, let's continue. We need to find the user in the database. So const user will be equal to await user model dot find one. We want to find the user by their email in the database. Now we're going to check if no user is found. We're going to check if no user is found. We want to return an error response that's user not found. Okay, so I'm going to use if statement, if not user, open curly braces. We want to return response dot json success false. It should be a colon. Success false, comma, message. We want to generate a message that's going to say user not found. Let me close this so that we can have a larger screen. Okay. So if the user is not found, right here, we want to find the user in the database by their email. Now here, if the user is not found, we want to, if no user exists with this email, we want to display this message, user not found. Okay. After this now, if the user is now found, this is for if user is not found. The next code that we want to write now is for if user is not found. If user is found, we want to compare the provided password with the one that we have hashed in our database. Remember that we're going to hash using bycrypt. We're going to hash password after the user has created the account. This function that we're writing right here is for the user to log in. Okay, so if the user is found by their email in the database, we want to compare the provided password with the hashed password. The provided password is the one that the user is going to type in to log in. We want to compare it with the one that the user has already used to create an account. So we're going to have const is match will be equal to await bycrypts that we're using for hashing dots compare open our brackets password. We want to compare password with user dot password, which is the password that is already stored in our database. Okay, let's not forget to import bycrypt as well. So we need to import bycrypt so that we will not run into any error. We need to import bycrypt from bycrypt package. Okay, now that we've imported this, so this line of code is to compare the hashed password that we've saved in the database with what the user is about to type in, with what the user is currently typing in. Okay, now once the password match, then we'll generate a JWT token to return a success response. Okay, we'll generate a token to return a success response once the user password matches what we have stored in our database. Okay, now before generating this token, we need to create a function to create JWT token for a user. Okay, so before this login function, I'm going to create the create token. The name of this function is going to be create token. Then we'll pass in ID. In this function, we're going to sign a JWT token using the user's ID and the secret key. So right here, I'm just going to return JWT from JSON Web Token dot sign, open brackets, then open a curly braces, we'll pass ID, comma, process dot env dot our JWT secrets, JWT secret key. Although we're yet to create the JWT secret key, let me close this models. We're going to create the JWT secret key in our environment variable. Okay, so let's create the JWT secret key first off. So I'm going to copy this right here to avoid typo error. Then we'll create JWT secret here. So for the JWT secret, I'm just going to use the JWT secret. I'm just going to have tutorial here. So this is just an instance. Okay, now I've created this function right here that's going to generate a token for a user. Now let's continue with what we're about to do before. So continuation of this code now. Right here, I said that we are checking to see if the provided password matches with the one that we have stored in our database, right? So next thing now is if the password matches, then we want to generate a JWT token for the user and then return a success response and allow the user to log in. So if is match, open a curly braces, then we're going to create the token for the user. We're going to have const token will be equal to, we'll call the create token function, create token user dot underscore ID. And then we generate the response message, response dot JSON. Once token has been created for them, success will be true. Then we generate the message that is going to say login successful. And then we'll display the token as well. Okay. And if it does not match, if the password does not match, we're going to return an error message. So we'll use an else statement, CLSE, to display an error response message false. Oh, success false, I mean. Success false. Message would be incorrect password. This is supposed to be a colon. That's why we're running into an error. Okay, so now we have this right. Okay. So now that we have this now, we already have the function. Now, if there's any error with our try block, the catch block would log the error in console and it's going to say error, and also we generate a response message, success false, message is going to be error dot message. Okay, so now let's go through this once and for all. We have a function right here, an asynchronous function for user to log in, right? That's the first thing. And then it has this parameter request and respond. Then inside a function, we're using a try block, try catch block. Now, in the try block, the first thing that we did is to extract the email and password from request.body, from the body of, you just think of it like from the body of the form. We want to extract the email and password, right? Next thing is to check, once we have extracted email and password, we want to find the user in our database by the email. That is what this line of code is for. Then this other line of code is to check if no user is found. We want to return an error message saying user not found. And then for this line of code that we have here is to compare the provided password with the stored hashed password. That means that when the user created an account, we have hashed their password in the database. Now that the user wants to log in, we're now going to compare the password that we have stored in the database, which is already hashed. We're going to compare it with what the user has currently typed to log in. Next is this line of code, this code that we have here. So for this code now, we're using an if statement to check if the password match. We want to generate a JSON web token and then we'll return a response message. Okay. So to generate the token here, we first created a function that is going to create JWT token for a user. And then we now called the function right here so that we can generate a token for the user that is about to log in. And once token is generated, we're displaying a response message saying login successful. If no token is generated, that means that the password does not match. Then we're generating a response as well saying incorrect password. So that is what this code is about. And then this catch block here is if there's any error with the try block, the catch block is going to log the error in console and also generate a response as well. Response.json, success false message, error.message. Now, the next thing is the register user function. Okay, so now let's work on the register user function. I'll delete this. The first step here is to extract name, email, and password from request.body, which is going to be the input field that we're going to be getting from the form. So I'm going to have const name, email, password will be equals to request.body. Then the next step is to check if the user already exists in the database. So we're going to have const exists will be equal to await user model dot find one. I want to check by email. If the user exists, then we want to generate a response saying that user already exists. Remember that we're checking user by their email. So we want to ensure that only one person can register an account with one email. An email is unique to an individual. No two users can use the same email to create an account. Okay, so that is why we're checking for existing users using email. Okay, so if the email exists in our database, that means that the user exists. So if exists, then we'll return a response.json success false message would be user already exists with this email. You can make your response short and you can make your response long. It depends on how you want the response to be. Now, if the user does not exist, that means after searching our database, which is what this line of code is going to do, and then we find out that the user does not exist, we need to validate the email formats using validator package. That is why we installed validator when we're installing our dependencies. So we're going to do if open brackets not validator. We're going to import validator later. If not validator dots is email, then we're going to return a response success false message is going to display invalid email address. So the job of the validator package is to validate the email to ensure that the email is valid. Okay, so we're now checking, we're validating the email format using the validator package. So that is what this code is for. We're checking if not validator, that means if the email is not valid email, we want to generate a response that is going to say invalid email address. Also, we're going to ensure that the password is at least 8 characters long for security reasons. So we're going to do if password dot length, that is the length of the password, is less than 8, Then we should return response.json success false. Message is going to be password too short. Or you can just say, please enter a strong password. Okay, that is the second condition. Now, we're now going to hash the user's password before saving it to the database. Okay, so we're going to do const salt will be equal to await. We're using bycrypt to hash bycrypt dot gen salt turn. Okay, we're generating the salt for the hashing. Then next thing is to hash the password itself. So we're going to have const hashed password will be equal to await. We want to store it in database. So bycrypt dot hash password hash hash. Okay, password comma salt. Okay. So before moving on, we need to import bycrypt and we also need to import validator so that we would not run into error. We've imported bycrypt when we were checking, when we're comparing here, right? When we were comparing to know if the password that the user is trying to log in with match the password that is already hashed in our database. So the next thing we need to import now is validator from validator package. Okay, now that we have this now, we can now continue with our code. So now that we have this, we need to create a new user object with the hashed password. So we're going to have const new user to be equal to new user model, open brackets, open curly braces. So for the new user, we'll have the email, we'll have the name, we'll have email, and then we'll have password. But in this case, the password that is going to save in our database will be the hashed password. Okay, so once we have this now, the next thing we're going to do is to save the new user to our database. So we're going to have const user will be equal to await new user dot save method. Okay, once we've saved the new user to the database, we're now going to generate a JWT token for authentication. So we're going to have const token will be equal to, we'll call the create token that we created earlier, create token function, and then we'll pass user dot underscore ID. Once we generate a JWT token for user authentication, we're now going to generate a response message with the token as well. So we're going to have response.json, open brackets, success, true, message, accounts created successfully. And also, we'll include the token. So this is the code to register user. So let me explain once more. All right. So the name of this function is an asynchronous function. That means it runs in the background, right? The name of this function is register user. For this line of code, okay, thank God I'm explaining once more. It's supposed to be a try catch statement. Okay, so I'm going to cut all of this now. Control X, and then I'll use try catch statements. So that code is supposed to be in the try block, and then if there's any error, the catch block will log the error in the console and also generate a response. So instead of having to retype, I'm just going to copy it and then paste it in the catch block. Now let us go through the code one by one. So the name of this function is register user. This is the function that is going to register a new user to in the form. It's an asynchronous function, which means that it runs in the background. It has two parameters, request and response. We have the try catch statement. Now, in the try block, we're going to start with this first line of code. The first line of code is to extract the name, email, and password from request.body. So on the front end, we're going to have our form that we've created earlier. And the form, we have three input fields when it comes to signing up, which is to register user. The input field are name, email, and password. So at the back end, we want to extract the text, the input of those three input field, the name, email, and password. That's why we have this line of code right here. Okay. For the second line of code, we want to check if the user already exists in the database. For the user to exist, that means that they have registered with a certain email. And we also want to ensure that an email is unique to a user. No two users would use the same email to register an account. So that's why we're checking if the email exists. So we're finding users based on email in the database. Then we have this line of code. If the user exists, if we found the user in the database, we're going to display a message that's going to say user already exists with this email. Next line of code here is if the user does not exist, the user is just coming in with a brand new email that has not already been registered. We want to validate the email using the validator package that we have installed earlier. So we're validating the format of the email to ensure that the email that the user is typing, the email that the user wants to use to sign up, matches with the standard of an email. If that is right, then we now want to check the password. We want to ensure that the length of the password is not less than 8. If it is less than 8, we're going to display a message telling the user that the password is too short. Then we have these other two lines of code here. For this, we want to hash the password that the user wants to use to log in. Okay, that's the next step. After we have checked if the user's password is too long or is too short, right? We now want to hash the password if it matches up with our standard, which should not be less than 8. We want to hash the password so that it will not be easy for hackers to decode. So we hash the password, we generate salt for hashing, and then we hash the password, right? After that, we'll move to this line of code, which is to save the new user, which is to create a new user object with the hashed password. Okay. Normally, our user object is name, email, and password. But now we need to create a new user with name, email, password, and password in this case will be the hashed password. Alright, then we move to this line of code, which is to save the user to the database, the new user to the database. Okay, then we'll move to this line of code, which is going to be to generate a JWT token for authentication. And we already have a function that is going to do that for us right here. Okay. Once a token has been generated for the user, that means that the user has created an account successfully. The next step is to display a message saying account created successfully. So that is what this code is for. And then our catch block would, if there's any error with the try block, our catch block is going to undo that by displaying the error in the console and also generating a response telling us what the error is. Alright, now that we have the two functions, we're now going to test it out if it's going to work perfectly well. We're testing with Thunder clients. So let me open this back. Alright, so now we're back here, register account. Let's start with registration. So first off, we need to extract name, email, and password from request.body for the user to register. So we'll click on body, and then we'll have name. I would create a name. Let's say Zuli, comma, email. I would use Zuli girl at gmail.com, comma, password. And it's going to be, I'm just going to use a random password. Okay, now that we have this now, I'm going to click on send. So it's processing. Okay, success false message password too short, and that's because ZHU 3 width 7896 4 width. That means we have just 7 characters here in the password. So you can see now that this code that we have here is working. We're checking if the password, if the length of this password is too short, if it's not up to 8, which this is not up to 8. So let me add 8, then I'll click on send now. Okay, and we can see that we have another error. JWT is not defined. So let's fix that now. We've been using JWT and we did not import it. So we need to import JWT. Import JWT from JSON Web Token. Okay, we're going to wait for our server to be restarted before we now hit the send button. Okay, so connection successful. I'm going to hit the send button now. Okay, and you're going to say that we're getting this message. This already exists with this email because we tried to create an account with this same email. So I'm just going to add one to this. This is a new email now. Hit the send button, and now you can see success true message account created successfully, and you can see that a token has been generated. So you can see that this code is working perfectly well. You can see that for existing email, we're getting this message. User already exists. For password that is too short, we're getting password too short. For email that is correct, password that is accepted, we're getting account created successfully, and also the token is right here. So this code is working perfectly well. Now, if we go and check the database, click on browse collection. If you're still on the database, click on browse collection, and then it's going to lead you to this section. It's going to lead you to users, and then you're going to see that this account has been created. This is the first one, this is the second one, right? So you can see we have the ID, we have the name, we have the email, and we have the password that is already hashed. Okay, the password that I used here is ZHU789668, but right here in the database it's saved as $2B, $10, this is already hashed. Okay, so this is the first one I created, and this is the current one I created while recording. Okay, so this is working perfectly well. We're able to create an account now. So next thing that we need to test now is the login. Let's see if we're able to log in. So right here, I'm just going to copy this password. I'm going to copy it and I'll put it at the comment here. And I'm going to copy the email as well. And then I'm going to have it as a comment here as well. Okay, so let us do for login. Login. Okay, post method http localhost port 4000 slash API slash user slash login. Okay, so we want to log in with we only need email and password for login, right? Email, password. Okay, I'm going to hit the send button now, and we should get success true message login successful, and you can see that the token is also the same. So this is working perfectly well. So now that we've completed this backend, we're able to log in and we're able to register. Now we need to link it with our front end so that when the user types in their email and password on the form, they're able to log in and they're able to access the home page. So we're going to head back to, let me close this, close everything that has to do with backend, and then we're going to open our front end folder. So we'll open the login.gsx folder. But before that, we need to work on the app.gsx. So right here in our app.gsx, we need to, first of all, get the backend URL. So we're going to have export const. We're using exports because we want to be able to use that backend URL in other parts of our application, in our pages. Okay. So export const backend URL will be equal to http localhost port 4000. Best thing, just come right here. And then copy it and paste it. Okay, and then you can just delete this forward slash. Okay, then another thing that we need to do is to create a state variable that's going to store token, right? Because we want to log in and sign up, so we're generating a token for the user, so we need a state variable that's going to store that user token. Okay, so we're going to have const token setter function set token, and by default the token is going to take an empty string for now, actually. Okay, now the next thing that we're going to do is we need to install Toast container for displaying Toast notification messages, and also we need to install Axios. But before that, let us set this up. Let us ensure that when token is available, if token is empty, then we should display login. That means if no token is seen, we should display login, which is going to be in a bracket. Okay. And then if we have a token saved, we should display the home page. Okay. Let me import home from dot forward slash component slash home. Okay, so what we have basically is we're using a ternary operator to check if token is not available. If token is an empty string, which by default is an empty string, they want to display the login form. And if the token is not empty, that means that the user has logged in. They want to display the home page. All right, so that is what we have here right now. And then right here in the login, we're going to pass set token as a props, set token. We'll do the same thing for the home page. So I'm just going to copy this and then I'm going to paste it right here. Okay, so now that if I reload now, it's still on the login page because no token has been saved. We're here to sign up and we are here to create an account. Okay. Also on the login page, we need to do few things. We need to write a function that's going to handle the logging in and then the signing up. So first off, we need to pass set token here. We need to take this as a parameter. Then we're now going to create our function. So before creating the function, we need to create the states to store our user input, which is the name, email, and password for both of the states, the current state, which is login or sign up. So we need to have const name, data function set name. By default, oh, Control Z, use states. Oh, come on, Control Z, use states is going to be an empty string. Then we'll do for email the state variable that is going to hold the email. Data function set email, use state empty as well. Then we'll do for password, we'll create the state variable, data function set password, use state will be empty as well. Now after this, we're now going to create the function that is going to undo our submission. Okay, that's going to undo the form submission. So I'm going to give, it's going to be an asynchronous function, and I'm going to give the function form submission. So I'm going to have const. The name of the function will be form submission async arrow function. We'll pass events. First off, we need to prevent the form from refreshing the page. So we'll have events dot prevent defaults. So now that we've written the code to prevent the form from refreshing the page, we're now going to use a try catch statement. So try catch block. And then we're going to use an if else statement to check if the user is signing up, then we want to send a request to the registration API. Else, we're going to send request to the login API. So we're going to use if else. And the if condition will be if parent state is sign up, which is for the user signing up, then we are going to send a request to the registration API. So we're going to have const response will be equal to await Axios. We we need to install Axios, like I said earlier. So let us install Axios. Control C, npm install Axios. And also we need to install React Tostify. So let's come right here, React Tostify. So I'm just going to copy the installation code that we have right here. And then I'm going to paste it in the terminal as well. Axios has been installed, so let's install React Tostify. Then I'll press enter. So while this is installing, let me explain what Axios is for. So Axios basically is used to make HTTP requests to external API or backend server. So it helps us send, get, post, put, delete requests, and many more. And it handle promises and asynchronous data. So with the Axios, we can make requests to our external API. Okay, so that's what we're using Axios for. So we've installed Axios and we've installed React Tostify. React Tostify basically is to display toast notification. We're going to see that very soon. But let us continue with this now. So await Axios from Axios package dot post method. Then we'll pass our backend URL from app, which is this. Then we're going to concatenate it with our API endpoint, which is quote slash API slash user slash register. The API endpoint for registration is slash API slash user slash register. And then we'll add a comma, a curly braces, we'll type in the name, email, and password. Okay. And then we'll use an if statement to check if the response is successful. Then we want to save the token in a global state and also display a toast notification. So if not, we're going to display an error message. So we'll have an if else statement here as well. So if response dot data dot success, then let's set our token, set token with response dot data dot token that will be generated for the user. And also display a toast notification, toast dot success. We're here to import toast. So we're just going to do toast dot success response dot data dot message. So let's import toast notification first off. I'm going to import toasts from React Tostify, and also for the toast to work perfectly, we need to have it here. We need to have our toast container inside this div tag, toast container from React Tostify. Okay, so we've already imported. Oh, this is dot message. Oh, dot message. Okay, we've already imported our toast container. The only thing left is the Axios. So we need to import Axios from Axios package. Okay, so we've done for this if statement. If response the data to success, save the token in a global state and also display those notification. If not, that means if the request that we have made is not successful, then we want to toast dot error response dot data dot message. Okay, now this is for the sign up state right here. Okay, now for the login state, we're going to send a request to the login API. So we're going to have const response would be equal to await Axios dot, we're using post method, backend URL. We'll concatenate it with slash API slash user slash login, comma, curly braces, would enter the email and password. Okay, then we're now going to use an if statement, if else statement, to check if response or data of success. It should save the token in global state and show a success message. If not, it should show an error message. So instead of having to retype, I'm just going to copy this same thing right here, since it's the same thing that we want to do. Okay. If response or data of success, save the token in a global state, display a toast notification, which we have already set at the backend that if the user logs in successfully, we want to display login successful. If not, we want to display an error message. Okay, so this is what we have. Now for the catch block, if there's any error with the try block, the catch block will log the error in the console and then display a toast notification as well. Toast that's error dot message. Okay, so we have the function here. All right, let me re-explain. So the first thing that we did here, we already know what this is for. We created a state variable to hold the mode that we're going to be switching between. We're going to be switching between the login mode and the sign up mode, right? And then this is the setter function that's going to be updating us on whichever mode we are in, and we'll be displaying input field based on the mode. Now, for each of the inputs, we are creating a state variable that is going to hold the data of that input. So we created a state variable for name and then a setter function to update the input field. We created a state variable for email, setter function, state variable for password, setter function. And by default, the state variable is going to hold an empty string. Next step is to create a function that's going to undo the submission of our form. And it's going to be an asynchronous function. In the parameter, we have an event. So the first step is to prevent the form from refreshing the page. Okay, then the second step is to use a try catch statement in the try block. Our first step is to check if our current state is sign up. Then this line of code here is, if it is sign up, then we're sending a request to the registration API. Okay, and then it will be followed by the name, email, and password. We're submitting the name, email, and password, which is going to be extracted at the backend. Now, if it is successful, that means if response to the data of success, we want to save the token in global state and then display a toast notification with the message that we've already set at the backend. If not, we want to display an error message. Now, for this second part is if we are logging in you know that the state here is if it is sign up. Now, this else statement here is if it is not sign up, then it's obviously login. Now, if it is login, then we want to send a request to the login API, which is this, followed by the email and password. Then right here, we're checking if response.data.success, if we're able to log in successfully with the email and the password, we want to save the token in global states and also display toast notification. If not, display an error message. If there's anything wrong with our try block, our catch block is going to log the error in the console and also display a toast notification showing the error. Now that we have that function working perfectly well, the next thing that we need to do is to work on our form. So first off is a submit form. So we'll use our onSubmit and then we're going to call the form submission function. Okay, so since we've done that, the next step now is the input fields. So for the first input field, we need to get the value, and it's going to be name, right? And also we are going to use an onChange method to call, then we'll pass the events, then we'll call the setName function so that we can update it. We can update the states, the name variable with whatever the user is typing. So the target dot value. Okay, the value that we want to get from this input field, we're saving it in the name. Okay, and right here we're updating it with whatever value that the user is typing in. So that's basically what this is for. Now I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it here. but I'm going to update. This is going to be for email, and this would be set email. I'll do the same thing, paste it here. This is going to be for password, and this is going to be set password. Okay, and then the button type is a submit button, so this should work perfectly well. All right, so now let's test this out and see if this is working perfectly well. We'll come back here, let us reload. Okay, I already stopped the server from working, so we need to restart our server. npm run dev, press enter, and now let's see, let me close this. We're back here now. Now we've already created an account, right? So let me just create a new account, or let me try to log in with the accounts that we've created before when we were testing. So let's go get the email and password of that account. I think I saved it in backend in user controllers. Okay, so this is the email right here, and then this is the password here, and then I'll click on sign in. Then you can see we're getting login successful. Hey devs, welcome to my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. This is the home page, right? So this is working perfectly well. You can see that in app.gsx, what we did here is working well, because we said here that if token is not available, it should display the login page, but if it is available, it should display the home page. Now that token is available, you can see that we are on the home page. Now if I click on logout, it's supposed to log us out, but because we're yet to work on that, it is not going to log us out. So let us do the needful. And then also, if I reload now, you would see that we have logged out. That is because we did not save our token in local storage. Okay, our token is not saved in this browser at all. So we need to first save our token in the browser and also ensure that we can log out. So let us work on the logging out first. So where we have our button, we're going to, where we have the button, we're going to use an onClick method to call the set token. Then we'll set it to empty string. So we need to pass the set token here as well. Okay. So when the user logs in, when the user hits this logout button, the token will be set to an empty string. So let's test that once more. So we have the password, the email and the password here. So I'm just going to copy this email once more. Let us log in with this password. If I hit sign in, you can see login successful. Hey devs, welcome to my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Now if I click on logout, it's going to lead us back to the login page. That means that the token has been set to empty string. Now let us log in once more and then ensure that even if we reload, we are still going to be logged in. So we'll come right here to app.gsx. And right here, this is what we're going to do. You know, by default, our token is set to empty. So it's not going to be an empty string again. We're going to do local storage dot get item. I'm going to have token or empty. Okay, so that's what we're going to do here. And also we're going to use the use effects. Use effect is basically for side effects. So use effects local storage dot set item. We want to set the item, we want to store it in our local storage. We want to store the token, comma, token. And then we're going to pass token as a dependency array. Okay, so the token will be saved in our local storage. Okay, so now let's try to log in once more. I'm going to copy this email and then paste it here, and then I'm going to copy this password, paste it in the password field, click on sign in, and it's already logged in. If I reload now, you can see that we are still on the home page even if we reload, and that's because our token has been saved in local storage. Only if we hit the logout button would we be logged out of the page. Okay, so let's try to create another account, an account for another user. Let's say Sunrayo. Then we'll have an email, sunrayo12 at gmail.com. Then we'll use our password. If I click on sign up now, we're going to get, okay, the password is too short, so let me add more. Click on sign up. You would see account created successfully, and we're on the home page. Now if we go and check the database now and then we refresh, you're going to see that that account that we've created has been saved to the database. Okay, so it's currently retrieving, and now you can see name Turayo, email Turayo12 at gmail.com, and the password has been hashed. So this is what we've built at the end of this tutorial. If you watched till the end, please do not forget to like, subscribe, drop a comment on how you think this tutorial has been so far. Thank you so much for watching. See you at the next one. Bye.